Daf Samach Daled. Yesterday, the Gemara at the end of Samach Gimel Amid Beis ended up with a problem. The Gemara brought two psukim from Shmos, Perek Chav Beis, Pasuk Vav and Pasuk Zayin, and there were two brises that the Gemara brought to explain these two verses. There was one brisa that explained the two verses is actually talking about two different people. One verse referring to a shomer who lied and claimed that his deposit was stolen, and the second pasuk was referring to an actual thief. Both of them, the payment being kefil. However, there was another brisa in the Gemara that explained both of the verses as referring to a shomer, and the additional verse is excluding a case where the shomer, instead of claiming in court that the object was stolen, he claimed that the object was lost. In that case, the Torah is telling you, excluding that case does not pay kefil. So the question is, according to that opinion, how do we know that a thief who's not a shomer, an actual thief, pays kefil? The Gemara says we can't learn it out by way of a Bava Kama because the two psukim that were brought were limited to one who, in addition to makes a false claim, also swears falsely to support that claim. Therefore, the Gemara brings a different pasuk in that same parak, pasuk Gimel. Im himatzei timatzo biyado hagneva, mishor ad chamor ad ser chayim shnayim mishalim. This verse, according to the Tanad of Beichizkiah, the Academy of Beichizkiah, this verse is referring to a ganav, an actual thief. Now, there are two possible ways how to derive the law of a thief paying kefil and the parameters of this law. Two of the hermeneutical laws can be applied here. Number one is a klal prat and klal, and number two is a ribui miut ribui. The difference between these two derivations basically is, in a klal prat and klal, the specifics define the klal. In a ribui miut ribui, the specifics are exceptions to the rule rather than defining the rule. So the Gemara initially attempts to explain this verse as a klal prat and klal. The klal being the word hageneva, that's the first klal. The pratim are shor, chamor, and seh. And the second klal is the word chayim. Now the Gemara wonders if in fact it's possible to learn a klal prat and klal when the first klal is more inclusive than the second klal. Chayim only refers to those things that are living. A stolen object, the word geneva, can refer even to things which are non-living stolen items. Still in all, the Gemara does accept that a klal prat and klal can be learned out. And therefore, when we use the definitions of shor, chamor, and seh, the three specific examples which the Gemara explains why each one seems redundant, and therefore it expands the klal to include essentially any stone, the definition of a stolen item being anything which has intrinsic value and is movable. However, the Gemara is left with one problem, that we have another klal in this verse which is extraneous, and that's himatzeh timatzeh. We need to find a derivation for those two words. Now, anybody would ask the question, how could we understand a klal prat and klal when you have the klalim together and the pratim coming after? So here also the Gemara quotes a tradition from Eretz Yisrael that you can learn a klal prat and klal derivation even in circumstances as this, by taking the pratim and squeezing them in between the two klalim. However, the Gemara says, if we derive it that way, we're still going to be left with a problem that the word set is superfluous. It has nothing to teach. And therefore, the Gemara concludes and actually brings a precedent for this from some other source in the Torah, that we must understand this verse to be a ribui miut, ribui derivation. And the three words in the pasuk, shor, chamor, and seh, are actually excluding land, slaves that are similar to land, both of them not being movable, and seh is excluding documents which have no intrinsic value.